Hi everyone. I want to welcome you to SPED 5450, Introduction to Applied Behavior Analysis and Terminology, or as I like to call this course, Foundations of Behavior Analysis. My name is Dr. Jeff Kupfer, and I want to welcome you to the BCBA sequence. This is the first class that I'm teaching, and I hope that you find this class and those which follow to be rewarding and very interesting, and that it sparks a very long and productive career as a behavior analyst. What I thought I'd do is take the time to just talk to you directly about myself, get to know me a little bit and some of my passions and the things that I'm interested in. And then we'll talk a little bit about what my expectations are for the class. Well, first off, let me tell you that I'm a native Floridian. I'm one of those people who came from another state and invaded your beautiful state here in Colorado, and I'm going to stay. I have found a real paradise out here in the West. I received my PhD from the University of Florida in an area called the Experimental Analysis of Behavior. And yes, that does make me a Florida Gator, for better or worse. My area of research back at the University of Florida, I started off doing a couple of years of research, animal research actually, studying conditioned reinforcement, basic and complex schedule effects, as well as animal psychopathology. I also did some applied work during my graduate career in which I left Gainesville, Florida and moved up to Boston to do work in orientation mobility and studying environmental design for persons with visual impairment. During that time, I also worked at the Cambridge Center of Behavioral Studies way back in the early days and was in Boston essentially from 1983 to 1997. I began doing some applied work in a variety of settings. Some of those settings include, I have a list over here just to prompt me, residential settings, day programs. I worked a little bit on psychiatric units, neurobehavioral units, which is something I will be talking about throughout the class. That's usually programs that are geared towards working with individuals with traumatic or acquired brain injuries or neurological disorders. I've worked in skilled nursing facilities working with individuals with dementia and Alzheimer's. And I've worked and consulted in schools and rehab settings. So a lot of work that I've been doing over the years in Boston. As I mentioned, I was in the Massachusetts area, both Boston and Holyoke until about 1997. In 97, I moved out to Colorado to do work at a traumatic brain injury neurobehavioral program in the Metro Denver area. And then I also did some work, lived out in Grand Junction and did some private practice out there. In about 2000, I moved back down to Florida, which was, both not a great decision going back to Florida and leaving this beautiful state, but it was very productive in my career that I spent 3 years down there and opened up a series of residential programs just in the Plant City, Orlando area for persons, adolescents, and adults with pervasive developmental disabilities and traumatic brain injury. And then finally in 2003, I came out to Colorado, where I have stayed ever since. I've been working over the years at a program in the Boulder-Broomfield area called Imagine, which provides comprehensive services to persons with cognitive and developmental disabilities, and also sharing this time working with a program called Learning Services in Lakewood, which is essentially a neurobehavioral program, serving persons with traumatic brain injury and acquired brain injury. Clearly my interest is applied behavior analysis and brain injury, and I'm hoping that you folks will also find this very interesting as you are looking forward towards your practicum in the next couple of months, that you will take the opportunity to explore all the things that we can and offer to you here in Colorado. We have a wide variety, and looking forward to having you join us out here as practitioners in behavior analysis. I come back always to a passion that I have, which is actually teaching the basic sciences, which is actually this class. I've been doing this for many years. I started teaching a class like this down at the University of Florida while I was in graduate school, and it's gone through many, many different modifications depending on what my audience is. But it's a real passion of mine to teach the basic science. I absolutely love it. I also have an interest in an area called behavioral paleoanthropology, which is essentially I like to study the operant behavior of old humanoids and Homo sapiens. So from time to time, I may make reference to imagine you are a humanoid and you are living about 4.5 million years ago. How was this particular behavior shaped up in your repertoire and in the repertoire of your offspring? So that might be kind of interesting topics that we could talk about, historical perspectives of human behavior. Now, in terms of interests, I do have personal interests. I enjoy movies and television like everybody else. I sort of don't like today's television. I'm a man of the past. I like retro things from the 50s and 60s. For me, I love going into diners and eating very unhealthy stuff, quite frankly. Grilled cheese sandwiches and French fries with lots of ketchup and chocolate malts. I don't do this often. I don't make a habit of it. My wife keeps me on the straight and narrow relative to eating healthy foods, whole grains, and so on. But every once in a while, I like to sneak out and splurge at a diner, and that makes me very happy. I enjoy playing piano. I'm not great at it, and I used to play piano and synthesizer in a band way back when in another in another lifetime in Boston when I was in graduate school, and I had to have something to keep me wild and keep me focused. So music was always one of those things. I do enjoy jazz music. I love classical music, progressive rock. And that pretty much sums up a lot about me. Hopefully, over time, as we continue with this class, you'll get to know me a little bit better. I'll get to know you a little bit better through your discussion, through your emails. And I certainly look forward to, at some point, meeting you folks face to face. Perhaps you'll come out to our programs and you'll be working on your practicum out in either maybe in Boulder and Broomfield or at many of the other sites. We are a very close-knit community here in the Metro Denver area in the Colorado Springs. And we behavior analysts love having new behavior analysts come on board. We also have a great organization that we start out here called Four Corners Association for Behavior Analysis. I would encourage you to check that out, and you'll hear more about that from myself and from my colleagues who will be teaching the other classes. Now let's get down to a little bit of business about the class. As you click on the different sessions, I have provided for you a pretty thorough task list. If you follow this task list closely, and in fact, so closely, you should just go right in the order in which I have it presented. It's going to make it much easier for you so that you make sure you don't miss any of the portions. So I would expect you to do the task list, to join in on the discussion. Now, the syllabus has a little bit more description there about what my expectations are for the discussion and how I will be grading you. So I would encourage you to read the syllabus and read that particular section. You are responsible for reading a book, and I have that book right here. I'll hold it up for you if you could see this. And that's it. Behavior Analysis and Learning. And it is written by David Pierce and Carl Cheney. And it's a great book. Not only because it's thorough, but it really follows my lecture material pretty closely, more closely than many of the other books I had a chance to review. There are great books out there, but I highly recommend this one because this is a great blend of the basic science and the applied science, and really shows you that bridge between the basic animal research and other human research as well. Finally, you'll have practice exams that you could take. I encourage you to take those tests as many times as you want. Get to know the questions, the material, and the way in which I ask questions. And certainly, I would expect you to take the real deal exams, the ones that count for points. If you follow the practice exams, you'll have a pretty good opportunity to do well on the real tests. Sometimes the questions come right out of those practice quizzes, but don't be fooled because sometimes I reward those. You certainly need to be on your toes, but that's why I'm here to help you guys out. And I encourage you, if you have real questions, to send me an email, or we could talk about it in the discussion when we're not dealing with the actual topics for the discussion. You could certainly fire off a question to me. All right, and then let me again summarize this class. This is a class that I call Foundations of Behavior Analysis. Certainly over the years that I have talked with my colleagues and practitioners in the field of behavior analysis, we have come to understand that the really great practitioners are the ones who embrace the entire basic science. And in doing so, I could have very easily just set this up as a class in which you could just memorize all of the terminology that we use in the applied behavior analysis field. But that would really be doing an injustice to you and to the science. It is very important to understand that if you're going to use the terminology, you want to know the conditions under which we use those specific terms. And to really understand the conditions under which we use those terms, you really want to understand how they came about to be used in the first place. And to know that is to understand our history of our science. It's a great science. There were painstaking moments by other pioneers in our field that when we step back and look at where things are in 2010, we have no idea just how much of a burden these individuals did in a time in which the science of behavior was not very popular, and we had to struggle along for funding and to make our position clear. But in 2010, things are very, very different. And what I'd like to be able to do is to have you join with me in going through this wonderful history and learning about our science, and I hope that it will make you that much more of a better practitioner. Now, I like comedy as much as everybody else, and I like us to be able to sit back and relax and have a good time. So, as we are going through this course, right now you see me moving and waving and all these other things here. But I probably won't do this through the entire course. And what you'll perhaps see is at the very beginning, I'll talk to you briefly before each session, and then I'll put the picture on freeze. Let me tell you, I'm still looking at you. Even though I'm not moving, I got my eyes on you. So I could see all the things that you're doing there. I could see the fact that you're probably going to be, eating food while I'm talking in the class, and I encourage that. And if you're going to be munching down Doritos and guacamole, share it with the person sitting next to you. Crunch mildly and quietly so you don't disturb any of the other students. And I want you to really have a good time. I really hope that this class is the first in many of your opportunities to explore the science of behavior and applied behavior analysis. So, with that said, I'm going to end my welcome session, and I encourage you to go grab a couple of Oreos and some milk and come join me for the very first session, which will start momentarily.